Well, hello, my beautiful and epic friend. Welcome back to the podcast. For me, I can't believe it is the end of July and we only have, 5 months left of the year. Holy cow. Time is a flying. As you know, I've been traveling a lot and I am recording this podcast after I had went to Napa. And I have to say, I had a great plan for one of the days where I wasn't doing some of the wineries through the limo service that the ladies that I went with were doing. But there were other days that we were there and I didn't really have a plan. And guess what? Yes, I overdrank. So I want to just share that with you because I think we tend to put people on pedestals or think that we will achieve this place where, and maybe it's possible, where we don't backslide. But I think it's important to own the backsides and the slip ups. And that's one of the reasons that is a freebie on my website is how to navigate that. Because when you're changing your identity from somebody you once were to somebody you now want to be, I think it's terribly reasonable to have slipbacks. Why? Because I know everybody talks about them. And there's a reason we have these terms, right? Falling off the wagon. I had a slip up. I had a setback. In the recovery world, they call it a relapse. And I think that is supposed to happen if it happens to most of us. And I think it's important to embrace that and not shame yourself for that. And I think there's so much power that comes from personally owning it. So we went to a winery and I was planning on just having a glass, but then I signed up for the whole tasting service, which I see 4 glasses in front of me, right? So my mind instantly goes to, wow, this is more alcohol. But if you think about it, a glass of wine is 5 ounces. And when you do a tasting, it's a 1-ounce pour. So I saw 4 glasses in front of me and I'm thinking, whoa, I'm drinking so much. But in reality, those 4 glasses amounted to less than 1 glass had I had it on my own and drank the whole thing. So I just really love tuning into my thoughts because I'm thinking, okay, 4 glasses, my brain already assumes like, whoa, this is too much, la, la, la. And sure, it was. How do I know? Because the next day I woke up not feeling my best self and feeling like just a little like foggy in the brain and not really wanting to get the day started and needing an extra cup of coffee, all the things that I know my body tells me, hey, that was a little too much. But I think it's just really interesting, like the stories my mind had around those 4 glasses and how that was instantaneously more. But if you actually did the math, it turns out that it was less. So just so interesting. And I just love that I'm not beating myself up over it and really just paying more attention as I am back to getting back to cleaner, healthier habits that honestly just feel really good. And it's not a moralistic issue anymore for me. It's not a shaming issue. It's just like, oops, I went on a detour. And I love the word detour for me rather than falling off the wagon, which sounds so dramatic in my brain. If I just put less drama to the words I use, I find it's just easier for me to get back on track. So I did a detour and now I'm back on track. So I wanted to bring that story up in case any of you are in that or will need this advice in the future, and that there's that free resource on my website at epicu.com that you can just grab that free resource. Read through any of those 7 strategies. You just need a few. You just need to arm yourself with a few that you know work. And that's what I love is just knowing what tools I have and how to make them available to me, right, when I need them. So please feel free to download that and use that as you need. So today, I want to really talk about something that is really important, and that is getting and starting to get results on your goals. I see this a lot, particularly with the ladies I was hanging out with in Napa, in my friend groups, when I'm coaching. I feel that we all really love to talk about our goals. And I think that's great. Goals, I have no doubt that they are wonderful to have, right? The research shows that they're wonderful for the brain. Having goals gets us motivated to do things. We find drive. We're less depressed when we have goals, right? Goals are a good thing. But then think, if not thought about properly, they can hold us kind of in chains or hold us back from actually achieving them. And what do I mean by that? It's like we keep focusing on the goal and we put so much stake in the goal that becomes our singular focus. And I find that sometimes that can really hinder people from making progress. And true progress really has a foundational starting point. And that's really what I want to highlight today is that foundational starting point to being able to achieve your goals. So if you're sick and tired of losing out on your goals, if you feel like you've had the same goal for years and you're not making traction on it, then this podcast, I hope, will really resonate for you. And I think when we aren't reaching our goals, there's a tendency for us to go to Google, go to the things, listen to more podcasts, get more wisdom, get more information, get more knowledge. And look, I think knowledge is powerful. I think it's wonderful. I love having guest experts come on and talk about all the things we should be doing to help with the perimenopause, menopause transition, help with reducing belly fat, all the things that give us a sense of we're taking care of ourselves, our health, our mindset, our emotional health, our physical health. I think that's all wonderful to feel the most amazing in our bodies and to create the most amazing life because we have quantity of years and quality of our years, right? Nobody just wants to be here and not be able to contribute or do the things they love or do the things they enjoy or have meaningful significance while they are on this planet, right? You talk to people who aren't in the right mindset or the right health condition, and what do they want? They want to be more mentally resilient. They want to be healthier. They want to feel good in their bodies and be able to move in ways that they're able to do the activities of daily living that they enjoy. That could be hiking, that could be spending time with grandkids, that could be out there doing things at the gym, gardening, hiking with friends, all the things. So I think it's very important that we take personal responsibility for ourselves and get the knowledge we need, get the knowledge that is going to help us get there. So again, I love having the guests on here that are giving us that knowledge, providing us that knowledge, and giving us tools so that we can implement that in our life. Now, notice the last phrase I just said, so that we can implement that in our life. And here's where I see people get stuck. They listen to podcasts, they read the books, right? Like I love information collecting, information gathering, knowledge collecting, knowledge gathering. I love being informed about, what is the latest research about how to optimize our health? Where should our blood levels be? Like all that stuff I can geek out on. But none of that will benefit me. None of that will benefit you if all we do is grab the information and we don't implement. So because of the internet and all the access we have to all the data for free, really, I think a lot of us sit and consume, but how many of us are actually in that next phase of execution? So knowledge is wonderful. However, it doesn't do us any good if we don't implement it, if we are lacking in execution. And if we look at the statistics I commonly use about metabolic health, meaning we are having metabolism that is not storing more fat on our bodies, more inflammation on our bodies, more cortisol on our frames, all of this stuff that sets us up for chronic disease down the line, right? And if there's only 7% of us that are adults in the United States that have optimal metabolic health, then that means a lot of us may have the information. 93% of us may have the information, but we're not doing anything with it. We're not actually executing on that. And so I want to help you on this podcast start taking those steps to implement the information so that you don't just think about your goal, you actually start taking steps to achieve the goal. And that's really, really important, right? So not an information problem that we have, but really an execution problem that we have. And sometimes we just overconsume data. And I find this a lot is like, what do I do? This camp tells me to eat vegan. This camp tells me to eat carnivore. This camp tells me to exercise this way. This camp tells me it doesn't matter. This camp is all about calories in, calories out. So we hear all this information, and of course our brains get overwhelmed. Our brains aren't meant to consume everything that's out on the internet. Like, this is a modern day phenomenon. Before, we didn't have even books. We know how we communicated and found out about things was through talking, through telling stories, through sitting by the campfire and learning from others, right? Of what they discovered and what they learned throughout the day. And now we have books and podcasts and internet. Like, we just could go down so many rabbit holes. And I find myself down rabbit holes to where I'm like, whoa, I'm in a rabbit hole and I've been here a while. Let's stop and let's see what I got done today. Like, what did I execute on today that's moving the needle on my goals? And you can have more than one goal, but I really think it's helpful to have a priority, one goal that supersedes all the others, right? And that's what you want to focus on, because otherwise the brain will be like, I have a goal of being a great mom and a great spouse and a great cook and a great exerciser and a great employee and a great, like, all of those great things. You can't work on all of them at the same time. So I am all about singular focus and getting really good at automating that. And then you can go on and change the focus to something else. Now, that's not to say you aren't working on the other things. It's just making sure, following Brian Tracy's rule, right? You eat the frog, right? The big thing you want to be working on, that means if it's getting more muscle mass, you are actually lifting weights. You are actually doing body resistant training exercises. And once you do that, and that's like a half hour of your day or maybe a little more, then you move on to the next goals. Or then you move on to being that wonderful employee or cooking in the kitchen or whatever, right? But making the main thing is super important. So execution is more important, I think, than just all the information. Once you have the right information, then it's like, okay, you don't have to go to the internet, more podcasts and all that. You can listen to it as you're doing something, right? Maybe you're listening to a podcast and gaining information as you're lifting weights or as you're doing the thing, but make sure you're doing the thing. So I want you to move from just learning about it to actually doing. And so to do the thing, many of us feel that we're making progress by learning. And look, you need to be focusing on the things to do, absolutely. But once you know them, are you executing on them? Are you following through? And if you're not, I will tell you the biggest barrier to that is your mindset. So it has to start with the mindset. If your mindset is not in a place where you are willing to execute, you will not execute. So, for instance, if you have been accustomed to or been in a habit of procrastinating, right? That's an action. If you are procrastinating on your goal, I will tell you that you have a mindset block. You think there's benefit to procrastinating. You think there's positive outcome that comes from procrastinating. And you may argue with me, but then when we start diving into the coaching, you will also see that, yeah, I am believing that procrastinating is okay. I am believing that procrastinating and starting tomorrow will actually happen, when maybe you've said that for months now and it's not actually happening. So you don't see any downside to procrastinating somewhere in your mind, right? You may say, well, no, I know it's not helping. Well, you know it's not helping, but somewhere you are blocked from taking the action. And so uncovering that mindset is so helpful. And just looking at what is the thoughts around it. It's not that important. It doesn't matter if I start today or start tomorrow. One day makes no difference. I'm afraid. And usually it's not these thoughts. It's more of like, I'm afraid to get started. Because if I get started, that means I have to follow through. And that feels really heavy. That feels like I might fail. That feels like that's a big burden to take on if I have to commit to something and I get started. Because I know if I start and I stop, I'm just going to beat myself up. Or I'm going to tell myself it's too hard, right? So I see procrastination as an action people take, and it's common. I procrastinate on starting this podcast for a long time because I had a lot of fear. I had some mindset drama around it, that it wasn't going to appeal to people, blah, blah, blah. And I really started thinking about, okay, if I'm believing this and I'm finding these to be true, I'm just going to continue to be procrastinating on it. So it's not like one day you wake up and you're like, I'm just going to magically do it. And the procrastination goes away. It's like, oh, okay. If I want to stop the action of procrastinating, what's the mindsets, shifts? What are the new beliefs I need to have in order for me to take action, a different action, not procrastinating? And for me, it was like, if I record this podcast, like my first podcast, I still remember the title. I remember being told, don't start with that one. It's not going to get many people to follow. You're telling the truth too early. I'm like, wait, don't people deserve to know the truth? And drinking is a thinking problem. It is a thinking problem. You ask anybody, once they see that it's a thinking problem, they can't see it any other way. Society will tell us it's a drinking problem, right? But it's really a mindset problem, a mindset that you need it. It's going to reduce your stress. It's going to be all these magical panacea things that it did for me. I saw it over the weekend in Napa. Like some of the women really identified as drinkers and they bought cases of wine, getting it shipped back to their house. They loved the identity of being a drinker and knowing about alcohol and then the status of having a club membership shipped to your house and different wines. Like I see it. And I don't think of them as attached to necessarily the alcohol. They're attached to the story in their mind about the benefits alcohol brings into their life, or the benefits or the fun it brings into their life. Now, these same women go on to tell me how much alcohol interferes with their other goals and with their life in general and how they feel about themselves, right? So it's a double-edged thing. And if something is truly good for you, it generally doesn't give you negative feelings or shame about something. It's just really interesting to me that I see it as like, oh, that's where their mindset is at. I don't see them as like attached to the alcohol as much as I see them attached to the stories they have in their mind about the alcohol. And I think that's profound because then we're trying to limit alcohol, cage the alcohol, be away from the alcohol, all things that are important. Look, I'm not saying that that's not important, but if you find yourself around the alcohol again, eventually, right, if you don't live in a bubble or protect yourself from all the ways, where is your mindset then? And some people, that terminology I've heard is dry drunk, right? Like they just can never have fun again, or life just seems so dismal and boring because it doesn't have all the technicolor that alcohol brings them or whatever. And that's just a mindset. That's not actually fact. And how do we know? Because we know a lot of people who walk away from alcohol and go, gosh, my life is so much better. Like I just remember waking up on Sunday going, oh, I am so glad this is not how I normally feel in the morning. And when I was doing it so much, I just accepted that this is the best a body can feel. Right? It's like, oh, I guess this is the new norm. I'm just going to have this low level of energy and need all these things to help me through the day. Sugar, coffee, all these substances to help prop me up because I have totally destroyed the neurochemicals that my body normally creates, right? I've destroyed the dopamine. I've destroyed the serotonin. Like all of that has been found to be measurably lower the next day, which is why we get anxiety, which is why our anxiety goes up, right? Because we don't have the calming chemicals. We have this hormonal or chemical imbalance because of we overdid it on a toxic substance to the system. And the liver is just doing its job. The body's just doing its job to stay alive. And these are the way our bodies wonderfully were designed so that we stay alive. It has to focus on ridding the body of this toxin before it can work on body fat, before it can work on other things that it should metabolize and get rid of. So in the process, we're just becoming these inflamed individuals. And I saw it. I couldn't take off my rings. My fingers were bloated and tight, right? These aren't things I normally experience when I don't drink. So I just noticed all the inflammation in my body because I was treating my body differently. So looking at all of that, right? It's like, okay, I see how alcohol is affecting me. And what am I going to do about it? And where my mindset was, right? So To begin any habit change, it really takes looking at your mindset. And a lot of women that I work with will say, I've given up on myself. I've thrown in the towel. I've quit. I quit trying. I quit believing it was possible for me. I know I can lose the weight, or I know I could cut back on alcohol, but it's going to take so much effort. So I don't even try. Notice that these are a lot of stories and a lot of the mindset that if you work through that, I will tell you, life on the other side is amazing. Because when you don't give up on yourself, when you don't quit on yourself, when you go all in on yourself, you're going to find it's not as hard as you thought. Yes, it may be hard at points, but there are going to be times where it is just easy and you're going to be surprised, right? I've had a few clients on this podcast over the years, and they're like, I used to think it was going to be impossible to get here. And I didn't believe you when you said it was all in my mind. I'm like, no way. She doesn't love alcohol as much as I do. Her taste buds are different, right? Like I'm some special unicorn. But then they're like, oh, when I started actually doing this work inside of your program and working with you, I can't believe how quickly things started to change. I can't believe how much I don't really enjoy the alcohol as much as I thought I did. I didn't believe I could accomplish this much. And it's delightful. It's fulfillment, true fulfillment. Yes, there is pleasure in drinking, and some people will call that fulfillment. But really, is it fulfillment? Because if it's fulfillment, you should feel fulfilled the next day, not like, oh, what did I do to myself? Like my voice was off, my cognition was off. I even said, I'm looking for some words, but they're just not in my brain and they're not coming out my tongue right now. I said, I might need some more water and some more coffee, right? And we went on a walk, and some others were stumbling over their words. They're like, that just came out and that's not the right words that I wanted, right? We're laughing and all that. And it's just important to recognize that is that a one-time off deal, you may choose to do that. That may be fine. That may be the life you want to live. And great. It's good to know that. It's also good to know that you can come back to a body and a health condition that you're really proud of. And if you're proud of being an overdrinker, okay, that's where you're at. But many people aren't, and they want change. And so the first step, I really want to get this impressed upon all of us to any change, is a mindset shift, is looking at the thoughts you have about getting that goal. If I hear, I'd love to lose 20 pounds, but I don't think I can, or I don't know how, I'll say, wow, there is lots of information out there to get 20 pounds lighter. Would you like to do that? And some people actually say, no, I don't think I can. So it's just their mental belief that's blocking them from actually getting the result. Because what we know is if you follow certain steps, you get that goal. So many people have done that, right? With the right information and with the right steps, you get that goal. But some people don't even get started because they're blocked with their mindset. So that's why I say mindset is the foundational first step to getting to your goal. If you don't believe it's possible, you probably won't achieve it and you probably won't go after it. If you become so comfortable in procrastinating, you may feel like staying there because it feels easier. But I will tell you, life is harder being the type of person you don't want to be because of all the negative chatter. You show up less confident in the world. You start to second guess yourself. You'll show up for others, but you won't show up for yourself. And that feels inauthentic. That feels, to me, like low integrity with yourself. Your self-integrity is not there. It feels like, for me, and I can only speak for me, that when my mindset is there, I'm mentally weak, and I prefer to be mentally resilient. I prefer to be mentally strong. Can I achieve that 100% of the time? No. That's perfectionism. And so I recognize that. However, I love thinking it's 80% I can get there. The 80-20 rule I talked about, I like to do the 90-10 rule most of the time if I can get there. If not, I like to settle for the 80-20. right? So I'm not expecting perfectionism from me, but I am holding myself to a high standard. And when I hold myself to a high standard mentally, guess what? It starts to show up in my actions. I procrastinate less. I focus on the things that really move the needle. And so I want to share all of these tools with you so that you can get there for you. So, hands down, the first part of achieving a goal is not the action you take. A lot of people think it's going to be the action I take. Yes, action is important, but it's the mindset. It's thinking and believing you can get there. Thinking and believing you'll learn the tools along the way. Thinking and believing, yes, when I take this one action, it's going to motivate me to take the next action. How many times do you go to the gym and you're like, oh, that felt so good, and now I want to eat well that day, right? It's like a chain reaction. But what got you to the gym, or what got you eating healthy, or what got you there is thinking about it. Everything is created twice, right? Everything is created twice, as the quote goes, once in our mind and then once in reality out into the world. Everything is created twice. So thinking of that, right? Where does it all start? It starts in your mind, believing in yourself. And in August, that's what we are focusing on inside of our Epic You community. If you want help on doing this work for you to achieve that one goal, I suggest and invite you to look at joining Epic You just for the month, right? You can come for 1 month and cancel at any time if you don't want to continue, just so you can see what it feels like to have that mindset shift, to start actually taking action on that one goal that means so much to you, that you desire so much for yourself. So getting over that procrastination, getting over that initial hump of this is going to be so hard, right? Because don't you realize once you get over that initial hump, it's like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I am doing this. And you start building belief in you and in the actions that you're carrying out. And then your body starts to feel that this feels amazing. And you want to keep going. Another quote that I like, that I think about often when I get stuck, is that winners find ways, right? So coming home from Napa, I'm like, I really want to get back on track. I took a little detour. I'm a winner and I'm going to find a way. I started consuming bone broth yesterday. I drank some today. I'm just really nurturing my body, getting back to fueling it with more protein, really taking care of my liver with supplements, really just owning and honoring the health that I want and focusing on those actions I can take. But what helped me take those actions is the mindset. Winners find ways, right? And I want to win this week. I've been posting that in our Slack group, and I'm finding ways to win this week so I can get back on track and feel like, yes, here I am. So if you need guidance, you're looking for help on how to build new beliefs for yourself so that you can achieve these goals, so that you can take these actions, so that it could become easier, so that you can have progress on the way, then I invite you to join us inside of Epic You. One belief that I have heard recently is like, it's summertime. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a fact, but it's also a mindset. Some people think, oh, it's summertime. I just get to do all the things, or I'm going to just go off track intentionally. And great, own that, right? Say it's summertime. I'm going to just put my goals aside for now, but then decide, when is it you're coming back, right? When is it you want to get back to that? And if you're looking at doing it later in the month of August, well, I want to tell you about a masterclass that I will be hosting, and it is how to achieve that one goal. And inside this masterclass, it'll be 45 minutes long. You'll get a workbook when you enroll and register. And it's going to be all about applying this work so that you can move the needle on that goal. I know some people might be in summertime mode and may not be ready for this. If that is you and you want something later on in the month of August, you can sign up for this masterclass. This masterclass is called How to Achieve That One Goal. And that will be available in the show notes where you can sign up for that. It's going to be held August 27th at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm telling you about it early and now so you can grab your spot. I am going to limit it to just a few openings So I'm guessing it will fill up. So if you want that spot, please register as soon as you hear this podcast. As I mentioned, it's going to be 45 minutes. Over those 45 minutes, we'll be going through the workbook. We'll be talking about how to apply this information to your specific goal. I'm going to be using a few examples around weight loss, around drinking less, and any other goal that you have. I'm going to allow for some questions at the end of the 45 minutes if you want to stay on, so that I can help you achieve that one goal and really how to apply it to your life. You can hear a lot of generalities and get a lot of information from that, but really it comes down to, is it working for you and is it working for your brain? And so I want to help you achieve results because it's so fun getting to that next level of your health and wellness goals. All right, my friends, any more information that you want or you want to join us inside the Epic You community this month, feel free to go to my website, epicu.com/epicu. You can sign up there. And that's also where you can get the free guide that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, so that if you are feeling off track and want to overcome a setback or a slip up, you can download that free guide. Excellent, my friends. Lovely seeing you. If you don't know, I'm also videoing these podcasts, so you can watch me on YouTube if that's a preferred channel for you, or if you just love the audio. I'm so glad and so thankful you tuned in today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, my friend, be epic.